Right, good afternoon, good evening, good morning from wherever you're watching. On behalf of the Embassy of Switzerland in the United States, I want to welcome you to our Swiss Italian Showcase and Swiss Film Club. Thank you for joining us. My name is Emily Buss, and I work in public diplomacy at the Embassy in Washington. For this edition, we are celebrating the Week of Italian Language in the World, or the Settimana della Lingua Italiana, and we're screening 40 and Climbing, which follows three estranged middle-aged friends on a journey to scatter another friend's ashes in the mountains where they met 30 years earlier. And it's a very beautiful reflection of female solidarity, forgiveness, and love. So I'm very, very glad to be sharing the film with our audiences and also to be joined for this discussion today by the film's director, Bindu de Stoppani. And just a very brief introduction of all your amazing work. Bindu de Stoppani was born in India to a Swiss-Italian mother and an American father. She grew up around the world before settling in the UK and subsequently trained at the Drama Centre in London. She is bilingual in Italian and English and is an actress whose work spans theatre, television, and film. Ms. De Stoppani previously directed and wrote films like Jump and Cercando Camille, among others. Cercando Camille, for those who have been watching the Swiss Film Club films for the entire iteration of the project, will have seen that in 2020. So seek that out if you haven't seen it. It's another really beautiful film. And then she's also the creator of the Netflix series An Astrological Guide for Broken Hearts, which was one of my favorite series, I think, over the past few years. So really, really happy to speak to you today, Bindu. This film, 40 and Climbing, was released in 2021. And as I mentioned, it's being shown as part of our Swiss Italian Film Showcase and also Swiss Film Club. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, Bindu. I'm really excited to hear from you more about the film.
It's such a pleasure, Emily. Thank you so much for having me and for celebrating the Italian language with me, or having me there with you. It's really wonderful. Thank you.
All right, we'll jump right in. And I'd like to start at the beginning. What was your inspiration for telling this story, and are there any autobiographical elements?
So the inspiration came to me after my husband actually went on a kind of mate's trip to Morocco to climb Mount Toubkal, and for 5 days, and he came back, kind of a broken man, just like regaling stories of what his experience was like, and it got me thinking, like, I wonder what that would have been like had it been five women climbing Mount Toubkal, and what how would that affected the friendship, and how would women have pulled together or not, and so then it got me thinking that actually there's so few movies where you see women kind of on an adventure, on a physical adventure. You've got lots of women coming together and experiencing kind of more familiar territories, but nothing of the sort that you see repeatedly that men are experiencing, nothing of that excitement. And yeah, it got me pondering about female friendship. And that's a lifelong quest for me to understand what female friendship is about and what its strengths are. I think women are so often pipped against each other, and we always are left feeling like there's only one seat at the table, and so we all have to kind of fight for that seat. But actually, deep down, when women come together and when are supportive of each other and work together, there's such strength that I don't think even kind of male counterparts can experience. And so yeah, it just got me thinking about that, and I wanted to explore that theme and that adventure.
Great. Well, yeah, I completely agree about seeing the female friendships in a different light. It's very often portrayed in just one certain way in film. So I thought that was really, really well done. And
Thank
speaking
you.
of adversity, could you speak more about the filming process? I understand that this was filmed in Switzerland in 2020, right after the first COVID lockdown. So could you speak a bit more about the process and how you managed to pull everything together so successfully?
Yeah, so I mean, the film was actually written in the years before COVID. I developed this over a couple of years prior to COVID hitting us, and it was an intimate kind of view and portrayal of a theme, and it always only had 4 actresses and 1 male actor, which was a story unto itself, which was interesting in the development process of it. Because I was adamant that I wanted this man not to be able to speak, or kind of not have a voice in a sea of women just talking and having lots of voice. So, but anyway, I digress. So and then COVID happened. The first lockdown happened, and just as we entered the lockdown, Swiss Italian TV, so RSI, Radio Televisione Svizzera Italiana, greenlit the project. And so, but we were in lockdown, and we were thinking, oh my God, what does this mean? And this film is all, shot outdoors. We weren't sure whether the film industry, what that was going to look like, whether we were able to actually even shoot it. So we took the time during lockdown to really plan it and prep it. I worked really closely with my DOP, Marco Barberi, and the team, the costumes and production design team, and kind of theoretically planned it, in the hope that we would have a window of opportunity to come together and shoot it. And then when the first lockdown ended, and we thought, COVID has ended, that's brilliant, let's come together. It felt like the most apt movie to make post first lockdown. We hadn't seen other human beings really for 3 months, and apart from our families and our people you live in the same house with, and it felt like a huge privilege to come together. And we were all so joyous to be able to make this movie and to tell the story. 98% of it was outdoors, so that was really lucky for the circumstances we found ourselves in. We still had to follow really strict COVID protocols of distancing and masks, and we were tested on a regular basis, I think 2 or 3 times a week, I can't remember now. So, and we were really in a bubble, we were kind of in a pod, the cast and the crew, up in the mountains in Switzerland, in Ticino. And yeah, we shot it. We had 5 weeks prep, I think 5 weeks, of which a couple of those weeks the actresses also joined us and were with us for rehearsal. I love rehearsing with my actors. And then it was a 5-week shoot, and we just did it. It just felt like such an apt movie for the time of our global history, and to be telling something about friendship and being close, close, but also outdoors and in space, in having space and nature being a part of the storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that juxtaposition. And what struck me was, having seen the film, watching the film when I already knew the circumstances of the shoot, it didn't strike me as a COVID piece of content. I think sometimes media that you see, you can tell more or less the constraints under which it was filmed. But this, I think by virtue of the story and the way it was done, it it's very seamless. And yeah, so
Thank
congratulations.
you. Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't visualized, it wasn't created with COVID as even an awareness. It was no one could predict what COVID did to the world, but it felt like an apt movie to shoot just after the first lockdown. So it was kind of serendipitous that timing just worked so well in our kind of global history and in what we all as human beings experienced, which is lack of human contact and lack of those relationships. And yeah.
Right. So where exactly in Switzerland did you film?
So we shot mostly up in the Centovalli area of Ticino, which is up in the mountains towards Grigioni as well. And it was all, kind of nature reserve, really high up in the mountains. We had our base a little bit lower, but, we kind of worked our way up into the mountains there. And yeah, I mean, I think we underestimated. It was a small crew, so smallish crew, and we were really clear that we didn't want to bring lots of heavy equipment. We just didn't have the means to carry things up and down the mountain, and so we kept everything very fluid and very fast moving. But even that, we totally underestimated what filming in the mountains does. We shot it in the summer, obviously, but some days it would snow and, it was really cold and windy. And, when you're making movies, sound is so important. So when you've got the wind kind of going, yeah, so we had lots of those kind of adventures. One minute it would rain, the next minute the sun would be out and we'd all get sunburnt. And then, we had to work with the nature that was there. And we've got lots of backstage footage of, just us in the rain, just going, what do we do? We just sit here and wait. Sometimes we just carried on shooting and we just incorporated the weather into. And also that the altitude of it, the lack of oxygen. I think that first week we were all a bit, we underestimated how hard it is to film, and or not how hard, but how much extra energy it takes to do some things that are fairly simple on a film set. Even just carrying costumes from one point to another felt like, it was an extra journey to take. So we quickly realized that we needed to be as close, all the locations needed to be as close together as possible. So when you start off, you have ambitions of, we'll go to the mountain up top and then we'll come back down, we'll shoot this bit and then we'll go, and in the end it was like, no, we need to just really compact this and, shoot one side, then turn the camera and make the other location seem. So we had to be really clever about it. But, that's the beauty of filming in nature, is that you learn as you go. You can have all these plans, but actually you can't control the weather. You cannot control the elements. And even the actresses, it was great. We rehearsed for a couple of weeks. We went to all the different locations. We tried the different spaces out. And when they arrived, most of them were super squeamish about, the cricket in the grass or the little bug there. And they were like, it was very hilarious to watch them. And then by the end of the shoot, it was really an adventure for them as well on a personal level. They got to spend time together all the time for 7 weeks. But B, they got to experience the elements. And by the end, as you saw in the movie, they're crawling through the grass and they're really at one with nature, and all that. The stuff in the river is really them. We had absolutely no stunt people. We had stunt supervisors who were there to make sure everyone was safe, but they wanted to do all the stunts. They wanted to be in the nature and feel it.
Amazing. I'm curious, was there any drone footage that you used? Did you shoot with drones at all, or was it all?
Yeah, we had 2 days of drone. I think 2 days. We had a local drone company that came. They did some amazing work. Some with the actors, some just drone stuff on their own. I kind of sent them off with a list of things I wanted. And then the finale of the film, we went up to the top of one of the Centovalli mountains. We went up there by helicopter, and that was a wild experience. I'd never been in a helicopter before. Just to shoot the finale. That was also with a drone. So the drone people came up with us as well.
Wow.
That was amazing.
Well, speaking of nature and filming in these beautiful places, I mentioned we're screening this as part of the Settimana della Lingua Italiana, and the theme of this year is sustainability. So as much of the film was filmed outside, the fact that landscape and environment are very much an important part and key to this story, I'm curious about your general approach to green or sustainable filmmaking and how specifically you integrated that into this filming process.
So yeah, I mean, I'm really, really passionate about the sustainability of filmmaking. I think filmmaking can be a really unsustainable art form, in the sense that, costumes, props, sets, they're built for that story and then you move on, and sometimes you have, hanger after hanger of clothes that are often bought brand new for the show, because you need 4, 5, 6 times the same costume in order for changes and repetition. So on this show, we had, 5 actors. They wore the same things, were, bearing, some layers on, some layers off. Obviously, we needed repeats of these costumes because as the story gets further in, they get more and more dirty and messy and stuff. But really, it was really clear for us that we wanted to keep this as sustainable as possible. And the other thing is we were filming in, nature, and so we needed to be incredibly respectful of our surroundings and what footprint we left behind. So our footprint had to be really, really small. And that was really important. From everything recycled and recyclable, we had a lovely the catering company that came with us was a family who had a van who would come with us, and we got our food from this van, and it was all very eco-friendly. Everything we ate out of was recycled and recyclable, and so yeah, it was really important that this was a sustainable green film, and I think the Ticino Film Commission gave us some support for this. We wanted to have that, and I think they're an amazing organization, the Ticino Film Commission, and they were really, really supportive of us. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, you have to be when you're in Ticino with the beautiful nature. It's they've really developed a great green focus in their approach to filmmaking.
But also for the theme of what the story was about, that nature is, again, you can't argue with nature. You've got to bow down to it. You've got to respect it, and yeah, it felt really important.
So you are based in the UK, and you do return to Switzerland often, though, to film. You work with many of the same actors in your various projects. And so could you speak personally about what you feel makes Italian-speaking areas of Switzerland, Ticino specifically, so special, and more about the filmmaking landscape there in general?
So I love going back to Ticino and filming there. I think it's always like going home, and the community there, the filmmaking community in Ticino and in Switzerland is so intimate and so much like family. I have ongoing relationships with most of my collaborators from all 3 films. In fact, a lot of them have done all 3 films. They kind of work with me and with us, and they're part of a community, and so it feels really, really important to go back to Ticino and tell stories that both reflect existence and life there, but for me it's also important that they can travel, and they are universal themes and universal stories. And I think all 3 of my movies, although they're local in its inception and it's in its vision, and in its setting, the themes that they tackle are really universal and about things that anyone, no matter where you are in the world, can relate to. I hope that's kind of my mission and my plan.
Absolutely. No, absolutely the case with this film. And I think Americans are often surprised, because it is a relatively small part of the country, that there's such a vibrant film industry, especially in Ticino, but also arts and culture more generally. So it's great to be able to showcase that.
Ticino is such a varied geography, so for a filmmaker in a relatively tiny space, you are able to access everything from the city to the mountain, the lakes to the gorges and the waterfalls, and the roads, and the big I just, from the big picture to the more intimate ones, and I think it's such a rich landscape, and I hope, even if you're not Swiss, you'd be drawn to the filming in Ticino. I mean, I know lots of Bollywood movies are filmed in Ticino, kind of making the Alps appear like the Himalayan mountains, and there is so much richness and wealth there, not only in the landscape, but also in the the skill set that is available in Ticino. You know, you can really find top crew that will help you make your film, and I'm really proud of that, of being part of that.
And if you haven't been to Ticino and you have the opportunity to travel, I would highly recommend that everyone visit because
I
it's just
would too.
really
Yeah,
a bit of a hidden gem, I would say.
yeah.
So as you've mentioned, this is a story about women and female friendship. And as a female director, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about the evolution of women in filmmaking, especially behind the camera, and if you're optimistic about the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think one has to always be optimistic about the future. I think we're certainly making bigger strides. You know, I mean, Greta Gerwig being a female director, being one of the most successful filmmakers of this year with the Barbie movie. I mean, I feel very proud to be a female filmmaker. I think there's still a lot of work to be done, and strides to be made to move forward within this and to have real parity. I think in particular around the story subject, you know, the female gaze. If a woman is telling a story, they're going to be gazing at it from what it means to be female, and I think we need more stories that are told from this gaze. I think, you know, 51% of the world's population is female, and women make up 80% of viewing audiences on television. And so I think, you know, there is an audience, but we've been so indoctrinated that women are able to watch all sorts of things, whereas men only watch a particular niche of things, you know. And it's interesting, even a movie like 14 Climbing, although, you know, 4 of its actors are women and one of is a man, it's immediately classified as a kind of woman's movie, you know, when actually I think it's about friendship, and it's about working together, and it's about solidarity and the power of togetherness rather than individuality. And I think I'd love to see more stories that aren't necessarily a woman's story or a man's story, but that are blended. And for this, I think, yeah, the more female directors are at the helm of telling these stories, the more diverse our storytelling. Yeah.
Beautiful, absolutely. Well, speaking of hopefully more diverse stories coming from female directors in the future, what are you working on now, and what might we see next from you?
Yeah, so I have just finished a TV series, a crime drama for UK and American television, called Signora Volpe. It's season 2 of a series that's already out. So that will come out next year. And I'm now in the writing phase. I'm developing various projects, both for television and film, both for the UK, the US, and Swiss audiences, so different projects flying to different territories. So yeah, I hope to be able to share something new in the forthcoming months, years, and I hope this is just the beginning of many adventures. But yeah, I love telling visual stories, and I hope to be able to have the privilege to carry on doing that for many years to come.
Well, we hope so too. And you've been so generous to share both your time for this discussion, but also your films with us and these stories with us. So we are very grateful for that. And on behalf of the Embassy of Switzerland, I want to thank everyone who is registered to watch this film, whether in person or online. I'm glad we can try to get this in front of as many people as possible. And also, I want to thank you for continuing to follow our film series and encourage you to stay tuned to our newsletter and our social media channels at Swiss Embassy USA for more information about upcoming installments. So Bindu, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a great conversation, wonderful questions. So thank you. And I hope if you haven't seen the film yet that you enjoy it, and if you have, that you've enjoyed it. And yeah, and I hope our paths will cross again. I'm sure, Emily, our paths will cross
Yes.
again.
Yes, hopefully your next project or one of your next projects will bring you to the US. So we'll make
Absolutely.
sure.
Amazing. I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
All right. Well, thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.